Thank you, Gadi. Hello, good afternoon to all. I'm very pleased to give the lecture today, and I'm here to report to you recent advances in the study of the Middle Bronze at Megiddo. I strongly believe, together with me, other friends, some of them here, Asaf and others, who are cooperating with me at Megiddo on the Middle Bronze Age, we strongly believe that what we are doing at Megiddo will impact our knowledge on the Middle Bronze Age. When I say our, I refer to the entire Levant, south and north. So on the background of this nice picture of Megiddo with the Jezreel Valley at the background, let me start by just reminding you, those of you who are not into the details of the importance of Megiddo, let me say a few words about this. Megiddo is located in a very strategic location, as you can see on the map on the right-hand side. It sits on the very fertile Jezreel Valley, the breadbasket of ancient Israel in the Bronze and Iron Ages, for sure. And it sits on good water, several springs at the base of the mount near the valley. Megiddo is mentioned in all great texts of the ancient Near East. I think that it's the only site in Israel, at least, that is mentioned in all great archives, meaning Assyrian, Egyptian, one Hittite document, and of course the Bible in many places. It is linked to numerous momentous events, such as the assault of Thutmose III on the site, on Canaan in the 15th century BC, such as the event in 609 BC, the killing of King Josiah of Judah at Megiddo, and other important events. And of course, it is linked to important historical figures. As a result of all this, first and foremost, Megiddo has been excavated by 4 missions. The first one was a German expedition in the beginning of the 20th century, Gottlieb Schumacher. Then by the University of Chicago, starting in 1925. In brackets, let me tell you that we are going to celebrate the University of Chicago excavation centennial next year, and we are planning a few events to be linked to this date, to September 2025, including 2 issues of NEA, which will be devoted to Megiddo. Megiddo, the result of the excavations showed that Megiddo was inhabited continuously from the early Bronze 1 to the Persian period, probably also before, starting in the Neolithic and Chalcolithic, but for sure from the early Bronze 1, I would even say early Bronze 1A to the Persian period. The University of Chicago identified about 20 cities, one on top of the other. We are working in a more delicate way of the beginning of the 21st century. It's not exactly the same method of a century ago. So we identify, I think, 30 or 35, depends how one counts, cities, settlements, one on top of the other. There are more monuments at Megiddo than in any other site in the Levant. When I speak about monuments of the Bronze and Iron Ages, I refer to fortifications, gates, temples, palaces, water systems, and so on. And it is therefore a key site for the entire Levant and beyond. When I started excavating at Megiddo, very quickly I understood that it is like a switchboard in the sense of all telephone systems, not today, where all the lines connect for the Bronze and Iron Ages. And a result of all this, Megiddo was declared the World Heritage Site about 15 or 20 years ago. In my opinion, the most important contribution of the Megiddo Expedition, of the Tel Aviv University-led Megiddo Expedition, when I moved from Tel Aviv to Haifa, it was very clear to me that I cannot take the excavation of Megiddo with me, because over there I am linked with donors of Tel Aviv University and all sorts of interests of the university. So there was a very clear division. Megiddo continues in Tel Aviv under the auspices of Tel Aviv University, while all the rest of my work is here at University of Haifa. This was also the deal with Tel Aviv in order for them not to damage my endeavor here at Haifa. So the most important, I think, single contribution of Megiddo is about chronology. From the very beginning, I understood that Megiddo is wonderful and it's the key site for the Bronze and Iron Ages, but there should be something, much of the effort should be devoted to putting order in the stratigraphy and chronology of Megiddo in modern ways. And this was on the agenda from the very first moment of the excavations in 1994. We are celebrating now 30 years of excavations at Megiddo every second year. I'm not working in the field every year. Anyway, and I'm here to present to you the Megiddo system or the Megiddo method. Now, it sounds trivial. I mean, every archaeologist would say that this is exactly what he and she does in the excavations, and this is correct, of course, but the combination of the site, the special quality of the site, and very much attention of the expedition results in something unique, in my opinion. First of all, there is a very strong, after 30 years of excavations, yes, very strong emphasis on dealing very delicately with the stratigraphy of the site. So once I made a calculation, I heard about another excavation where I calculated that, without mentioning names, where I calculated that excavators went down 2 meters in 2 weeks. So I said to myself, now it's the time for me to calculate how deep Megiddo goes in one week. And I came to the conclusion that Megiddo goes down 11 centimeters in a week. So it tells you something about how we are working, how people, I mean, and the area supervisors are working at Megiddo. So it's a team effort, of course, not, God forbid, not only me. So strong emphasis on stratigraphy and very strong emphasis on relative chronology, that is to say, ceramic typology. Now, the big thing at Megiddo is that we are not dividing the history of Megiddo into Middle Bronze, Late Bronze, Iron Age, but we are dividing into levels. And in each of these periods, there are several levels. And we are putting a strong emphasis on the levels, and thereby we can really pinpoint on shorter periods of time. So here I'm giving you just as an example, the Late Bronze 2A in level K9, let's say 14th century BC on the right-hand side below, then K8. K is one of the areas, I'll show you in a minute, of the Late Bronze 2B, let's say 13th century and into the beginning of the 12th, and then we have Late Bronze 3, K6 in the same area of the middle to late 12th century BC, and so on. So strong, very strong emphasis and work, delicate work on the ceramic typology. Oops, sorry. We go back. Yes. And then from stratigraphy and ceramic typology, we move to radiocarbon. Not from the very beginning, but I would say since 1998 or 1999, we took a decision to invest much effort, thinking, money in radiocarbon dating. And by radiocarbon dating, I mean a strong bombardment of radiocarbon dating on the different levels with very strong emphasis and thinking about context. It's all about context. Here you see Steve Weiner from the Weizmann Institute extracting samples for radiocarbon dating of a level in the Iron 2A at Megiddo. This picture is from 2010 or something like that. So emphasis on radiocarbon, proper radiocarbon, which means only short-lived samples, which means only when we have a group of samples, not a single olive pit, in a layer, which could have been transported by a mouse from level to level, and things like this. We are very careful, and the scene at the end of each season is quite devastating, I would say, to some, possibly, because we are sitting at a table, and there are, let's say, 100, 120, 150 samples ready, and 80% of them go to the garbage immediately. Not to the garbage, but to other lines of research, but not to radiocarbon dating, because they do not fit our demands for proper context, proper radiocarbon dating. As a result, we can reach a situation like this, that we can, in fact, date layers in an accuracy. Also, if we construct a proper Bayesian model, we can date layers in an accuracy of about 50 years. So here you see, for instance, at Megiddo a few years ago, we are far down already into the middle bronze here, but this is maybe 8 years ago or 10 years ago, from H13 of the late bronze 2B to radiocarbon dated, let's say, until H5 of the late iron 2A, and you can see how accurate the results can be. So this is the main emphasis. And this reflects then on not only, of course, on radiocarbon dating and not only on historical interpretation, things that we all know, big questions regarding historic link between archaeology and texts in the late bronze, of course, in the Bible. It reflects also on many other fields in archaeology. And from the beginning, from the moment that the community around us understood what we are doing at Megiddo, they started flocking to us in order to give them the skeleton, the baseline for their research. Let's say, I'll give you an example later about archaeomagnetism, for instance, where we have a very strong project, and other methods as well, which means we became the clock in order to other methods to line up with us. And in fact, this is now the slogan of the Megiddo Expedition. It is maybe can sound a little bit demanding or a little bit even sometimes aggressive, but the slogan is you have to line up with what we are doing at Megiddo, especially regarding chronology. Now look at what we have achieved already. This is a picture which shows it to you during the years, and we did not work, you know, in a line exactly from the Iron Age down, because the special character of Megiddo allows us to work at the same time on the Iron Age and on the early bronze because of the big trench dug by the University of Chicago in the eastern part of the tail. So the yellow is what we have already dated in radiocarbon dating, and you see that it in fact covers the entire thing, maybe except for one layer which indeed is in debate between us, the directors of the expedition, because it is not radiocarbon dated directly for now. And this is this J7, which is either EB3, late EB3, terminal EB3, early bronze 3, or intermediate bronze age. But all the rest you see is properly dated and in more than one area, which is very important because you can really support what you have for one area by results in the other and compare. So this is about the background of what I describe as the main contribution of the expedition. And of course, another big contribution is the fact that we are publishing the results, something which is not very common in archaeology. We have already published, if I remember well, it's difficult to remember now, 10 volumes. And many of them quite details, I suppose. Megiddo 6, I think, holds 3 volumes of altogether, if I remember well, 2,400 pages of all sorts of studies, you know, including, of course, all the archaeological science studies and so on. And there are now 4 in preparation, 4 more. One has already been sent to the printer in the US, so there will be 11 soon, and then 3 more in preparation. So from this little bit of propaganda, let me turn now to the Middle Bronze Age. So, of course, we are not the first to excavate the Middle Bronze Age at Megiddo. The first one to uncover Middle Bronze remains was Gottlieb Schumacher, the German expedition in the beginning of the 20th century. And I'm giving you here one example on the background of this beautiful balloon picture taken by the University of Chicago, I think in 1926, something like that. And I'm giving you here the Mittelburg, the how to translate it, the middle fort or the middle palace at Megiddo in the main trench that Schumacher excavated. This was one achievement, and Schumacher also excavated in several places along the perimeter of the mound and discovered the first information on Middle Bronze fortifications. I will refer to it a bit later. Also, Schumacher was the first one who noticed the importance of Megiddo for supplying, with, not in so many words maybe, for supplying evidence on burial habits and burial funerary finds at Megiddo. He excavated several very important tombs, and mainly, by the way, from the transition, Middle Bronze 3, Late Bronze 1 transition. University of Chicago, of course, big expedition with many achievements, a large number of workers, a big staff, working 14 years, day and night, around the clock, in all year round, to differ from what we are doing now. And they touched on the Middle Bronze Age in several places. I'm showing you here the Middle Bronze fortification, the city wall, on the eastern side of the tell at the top, and then another fortification near the gates on the right-hand side below. And of course, the Tower Temple is no more at the site, which means the fortifications can one way or the other be reinvestigated. We are very disappointed that there is no place, no point where we can really touch upon the questions related to this Tower Temple, because it has completely been taken out, and there is not even a single place where it connects to an existing section at the site. And this is what we have been achieved so far. You see the areas where we excavated Middle Bronze remains, which means area K. Let me start with area K. This is one of the two main stratigraphic areas on the right below, which is in the southeastern sector of the mound. Most of the Middle Bronze has been detected or has been looked at, not all the way down to the beginning of the Middle Bronze, but much of it you'll see in a minute. Area S in the north, as you can see near the gates, the top, where we have evidence for the beginning of the Middle Bronze. Very, quite dramatic, I would say, evidence for the beginning of the Middle Bronze. Then we have also evidence for the lower city in area F. Area H, also in the northwest, is where we shed light again on the stratigraphy, this time in another part of the mound, but not all the way down. We decided to stop there because of security reasons to the excavators, so we are not continuing over there. It's too deep and too risky to work there. And area M, in the middle of the mound, where we are in the footsteps of Gottlieb Schumacher. Oops, again. So let me see. The mouse is too sensitive. Rega. Hold on just a minute. Okay. Okay, thanks. So let me start. So I'll start with this area over here, area K, and then from area K I will move, or in fact I'll start by describing the results in both K and S in both areas. So the first one is K and then S. This is a screen which summarizes the whole situation right now. Surprising situation, I would say. And see what I wrote to you on the right-hand side. We are now facing at least 12 Middle Bronze layers in our excavation of areas S and K, all of them with radiocarbon samples, or almost all of them with a good radiocarbon samples. The accumulation is between 4.5 to 5 meters. When one thinks about a tell like Megiddo coming up, rising, you know, during the ages, think about 5 meters of accumulation in what? The Middle Bronze Age? 450 years, something like that. So you can calculate the pace of growth of Megiddo during the years in the Middle Bronze. And this really enables us to establish, and this is the main news that I wish to break to you today, to establish the most detailed chronology for the Middle Bronze in the Levant. There's nothing like that anywhere else, not even in the northern Levant. This is now why now, for instance, in matters of archaeomagnetism, the northern Levant's excavations that had been conducted before by French and others in Syria they line up now with us at Megiddo because we give them the chronology, we give them the scale, the skeleton, the outline of chronology. So take a look over here. We go on the right-hand side below from S2, which is the earliest that we have, to S3 with some sort of a local destruction, to S4. All this is in the middle bronze 1. Then we shift from there to the middle picture. When we shift to area K, so S2 equals K18. And here I'm based on observations on the pottery by Asaf, who is sitting here with us, by Shlomit Bachar, and by us, by all the team. The Megiddo team is all sitting on this, and Helena Roth will be working on this theme in postdoc with Asaf here at Haifa, starting soon. So this is the equation between the two areas, and then K17, K15, and it continues. You see K14 on the left-hand side, 13, 12, 11, I forgot to mark, and then 10. And this is the whole stratigraphy with this huge accumulation, amazing accumulation of strata. So this is exactly what we are doing. Here is what you saw before in put into a table. The table showing the different layers at Megiddo, also with the connection between the areas, both S and K, and then K and H below, and our observations regarding the pottery. What is exactly middle bronze? When is the transition from the middle bronze to the 1 to the middle bronze 2? That transition from the middle bronze 2 to the middle bronze 3, and then yet again to the late bronze 1 below, and the dates. So we have already a model which we ran together with my friend Eliezer Pisetsky from the Department of Physics at Tel Aviv University. I've been working with him on radiocarbon articles in the last, 23 years or something like that. And these are the results. These are the temporary results. We are still checking, and we are on the way to publish a major article on the dating of the middle bronze. There is no revolution here. Take a look at it. Nothing is groundbreaking in the sense of shattering, the existing system, but it supports some of them. What we know, it is very interesting for the beginning of the middle bronze, as you can see above, and it is important also at the end. All those dates are, so to speak, important because of the quality of the work, the site itself, and the quality of the work. Now let's take a look at some of the details. This is a nice picture from the air of area S. I'm showing you here on the right-hand side above the location in the northern part of the tell near the gates. In fact, you can see on the left-hand, where are we? Yes. Can you see? Oops. I damaged everything, of course. Okay. You can see on the left-hand side below the late bronze gate, just to give you an orientation, and the gate plaza, which means if you come to visit Megiddo, you pass today through the late bronze gate, you go into the plaza, and then you climb to the left, you go through the Iron Age gate, which is a bit on the left, not in the picture, and then you go inside. And this is area AA of the University of Chicago excavations with remains of late bronze and middle bronze and different phases of the middle bronze, as you can see in my explanations here. And you see all the elements, which means the middle bronze city wall, steps leading to the famous MB1 gate, which I'll show you later. What we discovered that the gate at a certain time was blocked by a tower, which means that the gate was shifted to another place on the mount, probably in the vicinity. And then the middle bronze glacis on the right-hand side, and the later middle bronze fortifications towards the end of the middle bronze at the bottom of the picture. Now, the most important, I think, is the fact that we discovered in the excavations of especially 2022 and also 2018. In 2020, we were not in the field because of the COVID crisis, but in 2022, we were there. And we have now evidence here for the existence of an earlier system of fortifications and an early gate, which was not known before. In a sense, these gates that you can see here in lines in blue on the left-hand side up is a reminiscence one way or the other of what we remember for certain places in the early Bronze. If you wish to think about Tel El-Farah North, for instance, those of you who know, the details of the Bronze Age, the early phases of the Bronze Age, and the early fortification at the bottom, and of course the elements that go with it and the date for this fortification. This is a very early Bronze Age fortification, which dates to the 20th century BC. We believe that this is I think that we can say the earliest known Middle Bronze fortification, which is well dated. Let's put it this way. There are other, I suppose, Middle Bronze, fortifications, Middle Bronze, but this is well dated now because of the bombardment, radiocarbon bombardment at Megiddo. So this is one thing which is important to transmit to you. And then another point which is important on the left-hand side, you can see the elements which correspond to the plan published by the University of Chicago in Megiddo 2 of stratum 13, the famous gate with an left angle turn of the beginning of the Middle Bronze 1. And what we see here, you can see the elements on the left-hand side, the wall, and I marked in red the corresponding elements between the two pictures. And then we found out in our excavations that at a certain point this gate was blocked, which means there was a renovation here and a change in the layout of the city. We don't yet fully understand why this happened. We tried at a certain moment to look for the location of the missing gate. I'll speak about it in a minute. So far, we could not find it. The first reaction was, okay, fine. So the gate was here, but all the other gates at Megiddo, we have a series of gates at Megiddo. All the other gates are a little bit like 20 meters to the east. So perhaps this is the moment that the gate shifted to the east, and we can find the missing Middle Bronze gate over there. However, the result was negative. Here you see something that we carried out, maybe it was in 2012, something like that. I can't remember the details anymore. We promised to the Parks Authority that we will behave properly, which means we are going to excavate the Great Plaza and then backfill the excavation in order to allow tourism to continue, tourists to come, to continue passing through this area on the way into the site. So here are the results. You can see that there is a major fortification, solid fortification from the Middle Bronze Age under, the Gate Plaza is Late Bronze, okay? Under the Late Bronze Gate Plaza, we have this huge continuous brick fortification, even with plaster still, you can see at the bottom, between the courses, the brick courses of the big tower that exists here. So there was no gate here, and for now we simply don't know where the missing gate is. We can start a search or the hunt for the missing gate, if you wish, at Megiddo. Look at the special, and this is why the site is so important. I don't think that there is anything like this anywhere in the Levant. These are the gates of Megiddo, and I can count here 9 gates, one on top of the other. If we start with the early gate in area S, and then we have the gate which was blocked. This is the second one. And then we have the missing gate. I don't know where it is, somewhere there. And then we have number 4, the gate of the Middle Bronze 2-3 that you see in the middle top. And then the Late Bronze gate number 5. And then the set of gates from the Iron Age on the right-hand side, where we have also really invested a lot of time, effort, thinking, and money and research. Marco is part of it, was part of it in 2022, and he's going to describe the results in 2 weeks to us, right? Of geoarchaeology, let's put it this way, work that we conducted in the Iron Age gates. So this is the picture with the question of the missing gate. Just one note on the lower city. All attention at Megiddo is always to the upper mound, which means the tourists and students who come to visit, all of us, including me, we always go up to the upper tail where most of the monuments are. But we need to remember that the camp of the University of Chicago excavation, these beautiful buildings that have been recently renovated by the National Parks Authority, that you see on the right-hand side top, they are all located on top, over the lower tail of Megiddo, and we decided to carry out some sort of a probe, or bigger than that, an excavation area in the lower mound in order to verify the situation over there. And here you see part of the result, because we then extended, but this is the beginning, where we see the fortifications, the rampart, if you wish, of the lower mound. It dates to a later phase of the Middle Bronze One, I would say. And this is the moment, I suppose, that Megiddo expanded a little bit to the north and east, became a bigger site, a bigger city. Now, the question is, in all this very packed system of fortifications, how to date them? And was Megiddo fortified from the very beginning of the Middle Bronze? Or maybe we see an early fortification in Area S. Did it encircle the entire site? Yes or no? How to understand all this? So I'm not sure that I can provide all the answers to this question, but I can at least try to answer for part of the tale. Here's the eastern sector. On the left-hand side, you can see the city wall, beautiful bricks. Look at them. It's unbelievable almost how bricks are preserved, and when they are properly cleaned, what you can see. This is the brick wall on the left-hand side, and this is the situation on the right-hand side in a probe that we cut. You can see it over here, this probe over here, that we cut on the outer, in front, or to see the face of the outer side of the city wall. And there's no question that there is this brick city wall constructed over one only course of stones, and not on bedrock. They're still way down. And then there is a glacis supporting this fortification on the outer side. And this is what we see already in one of the sections drawn by Gottlieb Schumacher. Schumacher was an engineer, he was an architect, he was very good in drawing, he had a good eye for architecture, and he gave us wonderful evidence, if you wish, recording. I mean, certainly for the beginning of the 20th century. And this is what we see also in his own report from 1908. Now, we, of course, are equipped with the better methods in order to dive into details. And here we can see the different layers of Megiddo and the moment where Megiddo was fortified, which means, take a look on the right-hand side top, you see the foundation trench of the city wall and the inner face of the city wall. On the bottom right-hand side, the same foundation trench over here, and the face of the city wall. And the first, and at the top, one can see the first floor, which covers the foundation trench and connects to the face of the wall, which means this is our K15, which is dated, what can I say, quite late in the Middle Bronze One. Is the moment when Megiddo is fortified here on this side of the tail. On the left-hand side bottom, you see again the picture, the beautiful situation of the bricks of the Middle Bronze fortification made of bricks. So, dating the fortifications. I should say that a bit later, at least in the northern part of the site, the old fortifications went out of use, possibly because of the expansion of the city to the north and northeast, including the lower mound, and the fortifications were pushed, what can I say, about 20 meters or so, 15, 20 meters to the north here. I'm showing you on the right-hand side top, the western wing of the late Middle Bronze Gate, and also connecting to it the Middle Bronze 3 city wall. It's not exactly a city wall. I would say support, stone support in the rampart that we also have uncovered in our area H, located a little bit to the west of area S, you can see over there on the left-hand side bottom. So we do have information also regarding also good, well stratified now about, because of this place on the left-hand side, about the later fortifications. One word I should say, only one word, short, a few sentences, about a question which haunted the archaeology of the Levant in the late Bronze Age. And this is the question of fortifications in the late Bronze. And when I was at school many years ago, I remember that I was taught that there are no fortifications in the late Bronze Age. And there were also explanations because of the rule of the Egyptian Empire. They would not let local petty kings and city-states to fortify in order to prevent possibility of rebellion against them in the future. So there was a whole theory around it, and the theory really pinpointed on one event, and the event which contradicts the theory. The event is the siege of Thutmose III on Megiddo. In the annals of Thutmose III, 15th century BC, you know, you all know about it. There is a detailed description, also a little bit funny, of the siege of Megiddo by the Egyptians against the coalition of Canaanite city-states backed by Mitanni from the north. And you understand from the description that this city is protected by a city wall, a big city wall. And this is why also there was a long siege. It took time to take over Megiddo. And they describe even how they pull out over people over the fortification to the top of the fortification and into the city. So what's going on here? So we thought about it a little bit, and now I think that we have the answer. The answer is, believe it or not, that Megiddo in the late Bronze Age was better fortified than in the Middle Bronze Age. And the reason is very simple, that in the Middle Bronze Age, there was this city wall that you see on the right-hand side in the drawing, and the glacis. So the Middle Bronze towered above the glacis for what? Maybe 3 meters, 3.5, I don't know. We don't have the full height of the fortification, but for several meters. And then the city was on the other side down, okay? The floors, you can see where I marked here, a floor of stratum F. This is the earliest floor over here, inside the fortification. But what happened is that the city grew and became higher and higher. And then they came one morning, they woke up and they are at the top of the fortification. What to do? So they built over the fortification, but as you can see on the left-hand side, they had a line of houses connected and creating a stone fortification on top of the brick fortification, which was not the situation, which had not been the situation in the Middle Bronze Age. So now you face a situation of a fortification which towers maybe 7 or 8 meters up above the glacis. So this is at least at Megiddo. I'm not going to swear now for other places, but something to think about. A few words about some other aspects than fortifications and chronology. Also something that we recently have contributed is the research, several lines of research, several areas of research about funerary habits, traditions, and also what can be extracted from this information, from the physical anthropology and the skeletal material. So we have all sorts of burials at Megiddo, from this relatively simple burials that you see on the left-hand side top in area K. There are many of them, you'll see them in a minute from now. Then there are more elaborate tombs on the right-hand side top family tomb, typical of Megiddo and other places in the Middle Bronze, built of stones and accommodating family for a relatively long time. The one on the right-hand side with the pottery that you can see at the bottom functioned for a long period of time. There are 23 individuals interred in this tomb, and the tomb functioned mainly in the Middle III, when there was also a settlement in this area, and some of the burials, such as the one on the left-hand side top, under the floors, are from the same time as the more elaborate stone burial that you see on the right-hand side. Above, this is all Middle III. The trick is that since in Area K there was some sort of a gap in the late Bronze I, there was a crisis, and the Megiddo shrank a little bit, and there were activities there, but no buildings, so there were no burials under the buildings. However, in the family tomb, with the big stone structure that you see on the right-hand side, they continued to inter for a while. So there was some sort of a short continuation into the late Bronze I. We wrote quite a lot about it. Mario Martin and Lidar Sapir-Chen in an archaeology investigation, and me and others. So there was the tomb, how to say, lingered for a while after the transition, if you wish, the ceramic transition from the Middle Bronze III to the late Bronze I. Another line of research, yes, and then we have the very famous now tomb in Area H. We call it the royal tomb. I cannot swear that the family there belongs to the king of Megiddo, but definitely near the palace of Megiddo in the Middle Bronze III. Before the Middle Bronze III, the palace was not here. It was in a different place. But in the Middle Bronze III, the palace was shifted to this place. Still, I remember we spoke about it when we wrote that piece. And there's this monumental tomb with a beautiful corridor leading to it, with finds which are quite amazing. You can see the location of where the palace was and where the tomb was found on the right-hand side top, and some of the finds. The beautiful box on the left-hand side, the gold jewelry, and there are many items there. And we are now publishing, I told you before that we have a volume in print in the US, and the volume is devoted this time to one place. It's the first time that we are doing this. Two tombs at Megiddo, one from the Middle Bronze III and another one nearby related to it from the late Bronze I, with an assault, I would say, of archaeoscience investigations on this. From the very beginning, we understood that we have a golden opportunity in 2016. So when we found it, the first thing was to backfill it. No, I mean, to put sandbags over. And after the season, when everybody else went away, we came in with a small team, all well-dressed and protected, and to protect also the finds. And we took everything out in an orderly way. And then everything was shipped to laboratories all over the world. I mean, from the US, from Harvard to Munich to Leipzig to this and that, all sorts of places, to Brown. And we assembled then all the results of the archaeoscience investigations. I think it's a very beautiful manifestation of what can be done in modern archaeology. It will be published, I hope, very soon. It's in the hands of the publisher now. So, and then, of course, we have also investigated those tombs which are in the middle of the tell, supposedly dating similar to the Schumacher results to the end of the Middle Bronze, also here, when this place was still important, although the palace shifted place. It was here before. And we have quite a lot of information about this too, including, you know, this very elaborate tomb that you see on the right-hand side below. It was suggested that it belongs to the Middle Bronze. We now know that it is a tomb from the late Bronze Age, relatively late in the late Bronze, but there are remains of similarly monumental buildings below it. So I'm just mentioning it in passing. Finally, in the 5 minutes that I still have, I suppose, let me say a few words about results which are kind of outstanding. From the beginning, when we understood what we have in the burials at Megiddo, we really aimed at ancient DNA investigation. The work, the extraction of the DNA was done at Harvard by David Reich and his team, and the bioinformatics was done by Liran Carmel of the Hebrew University and his team, and we are the archaeologists, of course, and it was a big effort of many investigators together, and we managed to finally publish an article in Cell, which is, if you wish, the shrine of genetics in archaeology in 2021, 3 years ago, and it is about the genetic background of the people of Megiddo and other places. We took also samples from other places, but most samples are from Megiddo, about the background of these people, and you know, I think already, that we see, as Liran and others prepared here, this nice illustration, that the people of Megiddo come from two backgrounds, what they describe as Neolithic Levant, which means the autochthonous population of the Levants on one side, and immigration from the Caucasus in the northeastern side of the ancient Near East, also a component with a changing percentage in the genetic pool of these people. So this was really quite an experience to participate in a research of this kind, and it also reflects on what we continue to do in other places. Just to give you an example, a few years later, we had a rock cut chamber tomb, big one, a nice one, at Kiryat Yarim, near Jerusalem, in my excavations there together with the Collège de France. And over there, the tomb is dated according to pottery. I'm speaking about relative dating. There's no radiocarbon for this period because we are in the Hallstatt Plateau over there, those of you who know what it is. But we know that we are there between, let's say, 750 and 650 BC, something like that, according to pottery investigation. And we sent several bones Petrus bones to Harvard for extraction of DNA, and we can say several things about them. One of the things is that there is continuation in the genetic background of these people who are definitely Judahites, if you wish, living at Kiryat Yarim near Jerusalem around 700 BC to the people of Megiddo and other places 1,000 years before them. Another, yes, this is not so, both, yes, I'm getting back, I'm sorry, here to Middlebones and Megiddo. We are not completely surprised from the finding of evidence for migration from the Caucasus. Today is what? Eastern Turkey, Georgia, northeastern Iran, okay, northwestern Iran, something like that, okay? We are not completely surprised because we have evidence already in the early bronze for this Khibet Karak ware, which comes from that area in the early bronze 3, which means in the 3rd millennium, first half of the 3rd millennium. And we have interesting evidence from another angle altogether. And here we are in the Amarna tablets a little bit later, in the 14th century. In the Amarna tablets, the names of the people, the names of the petty kings, some of them are Semite names, like Abdi Khipa or names like this. And some of them are of Hurrian background, which means from that area of the ancient Near East in the northeast, including the name of the petty king of Megiddo during the Amarna age. He does not carry a Semite name, but rather a Hurrian name. His name was Biridia. So there are indications from several lines of evidence. There's one thing that I'm just going to mention, but it's still at work, and I don't want to break too many pieces of information without permission, should I say, here. We also carried out a big investigation regarding relationship between those who were interred at Megiddo. Here you see the nice picture of Area K with the different burials and all sorts of things they belong to this or that layer on top, to this or that age, to sex, and of course then to the genetic results, ancient DNA, the relationship, first relationship, second relationship, and so on. And we basically can hear, and this is in production now, we can really reconstruct the families and the population, at least here at Megiddo, in details, which is something really, had you told me this 20 years ago, I would have said that you are dreaming. I mean, this is something which is really quite amazing. The person who is doing the researchers, who is doing much of the work is Rachel Kalischer, who is doing the physical anthropology for us, just finished her PhD at Brown, and she is now preparing with others the leading figure in the article which will describe this investigation. Also, another piece of information, I'm sure that you are aware of it, and you heard about it recently from the lectures that were here last week and 2 weeks ago, at least from Vanessa last week, I think. We carried out organic residue analysis investigation of vessels from Tomb 50, which means Milbourne 3 in Area H. Much attention was given to juglets, the small juglets, assuming that in juglets we may find materials which are more exotic, rare, if you wish. And indeed, this is from a publication, and then articles in the world media. We discovered the evidence for import of vanilla in the 16th century BC. I'm not going to go into details about vanilla. Vanilla, there are 110 types of vanilla. And the question is what exactly type of vanilla this is, or where it came from. Certainly did not come from Mexico or something like that, as you can imagine. There are other possibilities. We tend to say that it came, and all this is in the publication, led by Vanessa Linares and others that you see. We tend to say that it came from the Malabar coast in southwestern India. Finally, I think this is the last picture, I suppose, before the end. I told you before how Megiddo influences other fields of research because we can provide the skeleton, the outline, chronology outline for the whole thing. So this is just to show you work that we are doing with Ron Sha'ar of the Hebrew University, and Shlomit Bachar from our university takes a major part in it because of the Chatzor samples. But as you can imagine, Chatzor samples now line up with the Megiddo samples because we have dates and they don't, because they did not have such a vigorous radiocarbon program in their own project. So this is the chart which shows you the magnetic intensity from, where are we here? From J4. For us, J4, should I date J4? Around 3000 BC. End of 31st century, radiocarbon dated, beginning of the 30th century BC, all the way to Q2, which is 8th century. These are the radiocarbon results for Megiddo. This is Megiddo only. And you see that once you have a chart like this, well dated, you will go to another site and you extract a sample for archaeomagnetism, paleomagnetism study, and you can then put the result on this chart and see where you are. So this is also some sort of a support, another method, if you wish, which can help also in dating. I'm showing you here below pictures of Chatzor, Megiddo, and we also shed light on archaeomagnetic investigations which had been carried out before especially by French colleagues in Syria, Mari, and other places. So this is also highly important. Let me first then lastly thank all my wonderful colleagues and wonderful team. It's all a teamwork, as you can see, and take a look at the list above. The leaders of the studies are not important. That is to say, Matthew, Adam, Zachary are important. Matthew, Adams, I'm only the one not important, but Matthew Adams, Zachary Dunsett, and Asaf Yasur Landau. Pottery is being investigated by Shlomit Bachar, Helena Roth, and Asaf. Radiocarbon, Eli Pisetsky, and Asaf. Ancient DNA, Lilia Granat Tamir and Liran Carmel from the Hebrew University, and David Reich, of course, from Harvard and his team. Physical anthropology, Rachel Kalischer. Residue analysis, Vanessa Linares, who is now in Munich. And archaeomagnetism, Ron Shar, and all the wonderful team that I have at Megiddo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, as always. That's a nice. Any questions? Yeah.
One. Can I get it? Yes, please.
The box, so the inmate box. I didn't know.
No, boom.
Second question.
We called it ivory, I mean, in the very first moment, but then we looked at it into the details, and it's bone. Yes, please.
Okay, now coming back to the fortification, specifically the glacis. I would say glacis in plural.
Glacis, I think it remains glacis. Yes.
Anyway, so you have stone coated glacis in the north, a mud brick glacis in the east. Are they contemporary?
No, good question. No, the stone, thank you for reminding me, the stone glacis in the north, which you remember well, belongs to the stratum 11 fortification with the later gate, which means the fortification which was pushed a little bit to the north, while the glacis, also I think that we have different use of material in the glacis in the same period. For instance, in the main phase of the Middle Bronze fortification, there is a chalk glacis. I showed you this white thing in area AA of the University of Chicago in the north. At the same time, there is earthen with bricks glacis in the eastern side, and I think that they are contemporary.
Do you have any way to tell whether there was a specific moment in time where Megiddo was entirely protected by a wall glacis?
No, I think it's reasonable to answer. Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, Ayelet, I think that I can say for sure that in the late Middle Bronze 1, it was already fully protected. Why am I saying this? Because then I can connect information from many places. The lower town, also according to pottery. So the lower mount on one side, and then area K in the east, and then we have another place which I did not show you, under the Iron Age gates. We found the Middle Bronze city wall, and then we have area S, and then we have area H, and the University of Chicago had CC in the south. So this makes, I suppose, something like 65–70% from the perimeter of the site.
Any other question?
I have a question. I wanted to ask about the wonderful slide of the city gate. It looks as if over time the city gate is moving up and down. Why would that make sense?
The city gate moves, first of all, a little bit to the east, and then it moves a little bit inside because of the structure of the tail. The tail shrank a little bit. Every time there was a slope, and they pulled a little bit back from the slope. But not much. I would say maybe on the perimeter from the late bronze, let's say, to the late Iron Age, maybe 5–6 meters, not more than that. In the north, in the south, it's a different story. And yes, we can see this phenomenon. And we are also, as I told you, with Marco now and David Frizam, we are now investigating, the plaza and the sediments around the gates in order to understand also the function of the area of the gates, what's going on exactly there. So maybe this also will impact on your question. We'll see. Ronnie.
The phenomenon of very...
Ronnie is also part of the Megiddo team, you should know. Articles on Megiddo, yes.
Actually, you've been asking me to be again a part of it.
Okay.
Anyway, the burial below sites is an interesting phenomenon that repeats through a series of periods. And since you mentioned the high resolution and that the site is, the MD of the site is 450 years, and clearly not everybody died and believe that the site is there, do you have any insight into this phenomenon who eventually is getting buried at the site out of the larger pool of people that live there?
Wonderful question. Thank you very much. I can give you a few answers. The first answer is that yes, there were also burials on the slope. And take a look, Eran Aryeh, a few years ago, I think it was in, when was that book published? 2011. The book which is called Bnei Israel, edited by Asaf and Alexander Fantalkin. Eran Aryeh published a nice article presenting the information about burials in the Middle Bones, also on the eastern slope. This is the traditional area of cemeteries at Megiddo. So this is the first, while they were also burying in different ways on top of the tail. But pay attention to another fact, that this habit of interring people under the houses is typical of the Middle Bronze Age and then stops later. And in fact, this is what we see at Megiddo, which means we have, you saw the picture, I think that we have burials starting in K13 or 14, something like that, that we managed to trace, because with us K15, 16, 17, 18 is in a limited area because again of security reasons. But we have throughout almost all the Middle Bones or Middle Bones 2, 3, at least burials under the floors of the houses. And by the way, speaking about running an investigation about the families, we can connect every family to a certain house. So this is also very nice to see, and the connection, the family connections between them. So yes, but then, so K10 is the last level with burials under the ground. K9, Megiddo area K was apparently not inhabited in the late Bronze 1, at least not in the beginning of the late Bronze 1, but it is inhabited in the late Bronze 2A, which means in the 14th century into the beginning of the 13th, according to, you know, Mario and Pisetsky and me published an article in Beso on the late Bronze chronology of Megiddo a while ago. In K9 in the 14th century, no more. And there is an open question for the reasons, you know, there are all sorts of theories, not coming from us solely, about the reasons connecting this phenomenon, yes or no, with the Egyptian takeover of the Levant.
And can you say a few words about the latest stages of occupation of the site? When?
What, the latest?
The latest stages. When and maybe why? I mean, when is the place deserted?
Well, so you know that Megiddo continues in the late Bronze Age without any break. Here and there is a break in a certain part of the city. For instance, in the late Bronze 1, as I mentioned, a break in area K, but continuity in area H. So there is no desertion of the site. Also, as a result of the Thutmose takeover, there is no desertion of the site. It continues and becomes an important city-state in the 14th century, according to the Amarna letters. The letters of Biridia found in Tel El Amarna in Egypt in the late 19th century. There are several letters from Megiddo, as you know, describing the events around the site. And then it continues. There is some sort of I would say a local destruction. I don't believe anymore in the word destruction simply in a simple way. It's too simple. Simplicity is not good. So you know, there's destruction, there's destruction, two different things. So at the end of the late Bronze Age, there is a small destruction at Megiddo, and then there could have been a short gap, and then the site recovered, continues in the Iron Age, again possibly, a destruction and apparently a short gap in the late 9th century at Megiddo, and then it continues without break. In this, on this, I'm going to say something. Thank you for asking. Until the Persian period. Now, I wish to show you something, and this will be.
There are people who differ.
Yes, there are people who differ, but these people will get a boom on the head soon. I know. This is something really interesting. The question, Ayelet and Golan and Ayelet and others dealt with it in a very important article recently, which we respect very much, and we dived into it and learned it very carefully. There was not enough information on Megiddo in the later periods, which means after 732, and especially after, I would say, the beginning of Assyrian rule in Stratum 3 at Megiddo. It was kind of vague. And we wanted from the very beginning to deal with it. The problem is that we could not find a place. Every place that we tried, we failed. And it took time. It took like 20 years of failure. Because every place that we said we were convinced that we are going to solve the problem and discover layers of the later phases in the 7th, 6th centuries, we found out that the University of Chicago had already erased everything, took out everything in the 20s, in the beginning of their work at Megiddo. And then I think it was maybe 10 years ago, Asaf Kleiman and me noticed that in the balloon pictures of Megiddo, there is a place in the western sector of the mound where you can see some sort of a hump with the remains of a building. So we said maybe this building had not been removed. We went there through the terrible vegetation of the end of the summer, whatever it was, and we saw indeed that we can still see the remains. So we started a project over there, and we excavated there for, I think, 3.5 seasons, something like that, with great results. And we see over there continuity from 732 until, I suppose, I'm not sure that I can swear on the Persian period, but at least until into the 6th century, strongly into the 6th century, not radiocarbon dated, because we are in the plateau over there for sure. But soon there will be answer also about chronology there. Why am I saying this? This is why I brought this to the picture. Because the team of Ron Shaw from the Hebrew University, together with the Oded Lipschitz, Omer Sergi, and Ido Koch from Tel Aviv University, together with the person who did the actual work, Yoav Vaknin from Tel Aviv. They carried out an investigation of paleomagnetism of the different families of handles with seal impressions from the late Iron Age, which means, those of you who know, early Lamelech, late Lamelech, concentric handles, rosette handles, and later, and irons and later, and these sealing handles are well dated in the period between, let's say, in the plateau, in the Hallstatt plateau, which cannot be dealt with the radiocarbon methods. So they carried out, and they have results, and the results continues what we stopped over here. See, here we stopped at Q2, which is 732, but they have results also for this. So what are we doing now? We took now samples from vessels, from the different layers that we excavated in that area X at Megiddo in the western sector. We are waiting for the results. We will compare the results, assuming that there will not be difference in a distance of about 100 kilometers as the crow flies between Jerusalem and Megiddo, and thereby we will be able to date, I hope, we'll see, the Megiddo layers. So this is, we are now waiting for this information.
But I just want to ask about the graph. If you look between, I don't know, K6 and VM, you have a great overlap in all your.
Well.
It seems to me, I'm not very acquainted with the method, but it's hard.
No, these Q6, these are all, yes, they give you some sort of a continuity. Not all of them fall in the very same thing. Look, when you speak about K6, you have also to remember what is K6. In K6, there are vessels.
No, I just said K6 as an example.
Okay, K6 is a good example because it is a phase which came to an end in a conflagration. Okay, so the vessels that we find in K6 and that we dated or looked for, not dated, looked for the intensity in archaeomagnetism. Some of the vessels can come from the beginning of the layer and some for the last moment of the layer. So you cannot expect in this, these ups or downs, all of them in the same place.
But can you differentiate K6 from H11 to H10? Can you differentiate?
Yes, we can, and not only that, we can also, this is wonderful, because I told you Megiddo is strong in radiocarbon. We know that K11 is radiocarbon-wise. Yeah, no, wait. We know radiocarbon-wise that H11 is slightly later than K6. Yes. Maybe Asaf wants to say something about all this? No, because main partner.
First of all, I'm glad that this is being investigated in Megiddo. I'm referring to the late Iron Age. But I have a question. When you're talking about the archaeomagnetism, so regarding, for instance, the Lamelech, etc. When you say we rely on Lamelech, you mean we rely on the date offered by Lifshitz for Lamelech?
Absolutely. No, Lifshitz, wait.
Lifshitz and team.
No, and also for the later of others also. No.
This is why I'm bothering to speak, because this is methodological issue.
True.
This is why those charts frighten me a little bit. Because I'll give you an example. For instance, the Chenish. The destruction of the Chenish 3 in your first or whatever it was, second article with you have. A date was picked because there was a difference of opinion between the excavators and I don't remember
and us
and you and you picked one date. Now, for instance, I don't agree with you, but in this paper it's already an axiom. Here too, the dates of Lamelech, I'll probably not leave that long, but I disagree with Lifshitz's model. So, but once they are being inserted into a model like that, it's the only thing I'm saying, this is really exciting. So you have to be really careful and give a place for different opinions.
Always, I give a place for doubt. And what can I say? What you're saying is true. First of all, let's say that there is some sort of a distance of assumptions here. This is true. I can only say that regarding Lamelech is all these seal impressions are very close to my heart for different reasons. And when they published their results, I was then also, remember, the editor of Tel Aviv. So I had to, my name was also on the line, so to speak, to publish this. And I really dived into the question and I came to the conclusion that basically they are correct. I have differences with them, for instance, regarding the exact date of the Rosette, beginning of the Rosette impressions. But basically the continuity, I mean, the different phases, I agree. But of course, we'll see in the future, especially if there is information from a site in the highlands, this can change a bit what we know. If there is a change, will change. This is the situation true for, there is what, July 1st today or 2nd? 2024. I cannot guarantee for next month or half a year from now.
What I'm saying, as you said, is that the assumptions have to be made explicit.
Absolutely, always.